Last episode, we had an epic race. 3 DNFs, 2 safety cars, a VSC, and a crash on the last lap. Today, we are back. We're heading to Albert Park. We're going down under. Let's see if we can continue our insane start to the season, shall we? Yes, folks, how is it going? And welcome back to Alpine. Today is episode number 3 here in F1 Manager. And, well, we are bringing our first upgrades of the season. Yes, a new chassis ahead of the Australian Grand Prix. Hopefully going to help us out on a track which I want to think we can do okay at. So the chassis upgrade that we've done is not insignificant. Of course, Albert Park, a track where top speed is key, high-speed cornering is a plenty, especially with the reworked Sector 2. There used to be a few more turns there. It's now a quicker track. It's a faster track. And with that in mind, it suits our car a little bit more. And this upgrade we've bought is significant. You can see kind of the before and after. Worth noting, our engine cooling is going to be worse, so going to be important where we can that we avoid trailing cars for extended periods. In terms of the chassis, I've only got 2 versions of them. I'm going to put one on each car. If we have a crash, if we have an incident, we are going to have to install an emergency part. So fingers crossed our drivers keep it clean today. So I have got 2 further backup chassis being made, but I didn't want to buy them as emergency parts. So they will be done in 2 weeks' time. Besides the chassis changes, you can see the side pod project we kicked off last time is still on its merry way. As for the rear wing upgrade, I've got no time left in the wind tunnel. Teams are given an allocation of time in the wind tunnel to aid the development of parts based on where they finished last year on the F1 Constructors' Championship standings. As a result of me burning through all the wind tunnel time for side pod and chassis upgrades, this rear wing upgrade is very, very minor, but I didn't want to leave 6 engineers doing nothing. So at least they've got some work to do for a month. Going into this race, I would love to get a top 8 finish. I think that is a fairly realistic goal. I think if we could get both drivers into the points, that would be considered a win. These early tracks on the calendar definitely suit our car. I'm a little bit worried that down the line we're going to fall down the pecking order a little bit. And in terms of finishing position, I can set a race target of 8th place, and I'm going to set that target of 8th place. We've done it twice. Let's make it 3 out of 3. Just looking ahead to the weekend, looks like it's going to be a dry race here in Australia, which is kind of good for us, especially a track where we're favoured to do well. The last thing we want is rain. Rain in Formula 1 tends to be the great equaliser, so that's some good news looking ahead. Of course, you know the deal by now. I'm not going to be doing the practice sessions. I know some people love to do them. We're going to say this every episode. I know there's benefits to doing them, but ultimately, I think for how I enjoy playing this game, we're going to get right to quali. After the simulated practice sessions, looks like Red Bull are going to be very, very quick here. They lead the standings by 2 tenths over Leclerc. In fact, Sergio Perez, maybe a little bit of a surprise to see him right up there at the top. Fernando Alonso and Ocon with Gasly sat in between. I'm getting a little bit of deja vu here. That AlphaTauri, driven by Pierre Gasly, I think is going to be a constant thorn in our side. A little further up the road, we have Valtteri Bottas and, of course, the 2 Mercedes who, as I've mentioned already, I think we are going to struggle to beat. But aim of the day, get 2 drivers into Q3. I think that is doable. Let's go see how we got on, shall we? So going into this qualifying session, targeting getting both cars into the top 8 if possible. We knew that was going to be tough, but in Q1, I was feeling confident. We managed to get both drivers out early, avoid traffic, get times on the board, and much like Jeddah, having done some clear runs in clear air, I felt like the job was done. We were half a second faster than the Haas after the initial runnings, both ourselves and Magnussen running in clean air. And so we just sat out the rest of the session. And whilst we did tumble down a little bit with the usual suspects going faster, Alonso and Ocon sat in P8 and P9 respectively. Bottas, perhaps the one car you'd be surprised to see ahead of us. But you know what? We weren't going to panic too much. Job was done in Q1. Into Q2 we went, using those softs that had already done a singular lap in the previous session. So Ocon on his first flying lap of Q2 on the used softs, coming up behind a Red Bull. It's Sergio Perez, and he is in the way. Sergio, move your booty. I'll tell you what, he isn't moving his booty, and I was getting angry. I was getting annoyed, but when I checked the sector times, Esteban Ocon was only 50 thousandths of a second behind Alonso. I think Alonso had a really bad opening sector himself. I think Ocon was blocked slightly, and well, when the times came in, it wasn't looking great for us. Ocon 200ths of a second behind Alonso, but after everyone had done their runs, Alonso P9, Ocon P14, we had fresh softs to go on to here. We were going to need some mega runs. Ocon coming out directly behind Pierre Gasly was a concern. I guess if all the cars get stuck behind, it wasn't the worst because the AlphaTauri is quick. And by the time the hot laps were beginning, the good news was there was a bit more of a gap. I was hoping we could get a toe off Gasly here. Ocon in P14 had to go quicker on this run. I was going to hope that Gasly didn't hold us up. He's a fairly fast car in that AlphaTauri. As for Alonso, he was not safe either. Still Ocon chasing Gasly as we enter Sector 3. And well, as we approach the final turns of this quali session, a late twist. Because as we approach Gasly here, and all getting closer on him, we were definitely faster on the lap as a whole. There were yellow flags in Sector 3. And it was a Ferrari of Carlos Sainz off the track. He had lost the rear on the penultimate corners. Didn't really matter for Ferrari. They were already through. They didn't need to be on the track here. But Carlos Sainz pushing harder on Yusuf's just lost it. As a result of that, yellow flags up. We had to lift with Esteban Ocon. But was he going to be able to go quicker having not been blocked? He was. He went P7. Gasly, by comparison, 50 thousandths of a second slower in P10. It gives you an idea of how closely matched the cars in the middle were. Alonso, though, in the danger area. Good news for him. Sainz was back on track and cleared by the time he was coming around. He would cross the line, Alonso, and he would go a little better than Ocon. 0.4 of a second quicker. Ocon definitely did lift in that final sector. With that, Esteban was through by 1,000th of a second over Lando Norris. We got very, very lucky. I did look at the sector times. Alonso was, 0.3 faster than Ocon in that final sector. So Ocon lifted off just enough to get by. But I'll tell you what, I was mighty, mighty relieved. I feel like we've been given a second chance here. So lucky for Ocon. McLaren must be fuming, by the way. Lando Norris missing out on the session by 1,000th of a second. In this Q3 session, of course, we are still trying to get the sponsor objective of both cars in the top 8. I knew that was going to be a tall order. And so when both cars set their initial times on used softs, I knew that it was all going to come down to the final runnings for us. Alonso, though, had pulled out a pretty mega lap. Not a massive gap between Alonso and Ocon, but enough that both Bottas and Russell were sat in that gap. As we went on to the final laps of this session on fresh softs, both cars going green in Sector 1, both looking like improving. Mercedes crossing the line with both Russell and Hamilton. Russell, a mega lap by him to leapfrog Alonso. Hamilton with a huge lap of his own to go faster than his teammate. Ocon trailing just behind and able to go that little bit faster. Alonso crossed the line. He did improve slightly, but not enough. And with that, we knew 7th was the best we could hope for. Zhou, the last man who could really affect our qualifying standings to cross the line, could not improve. Verstappen went slightly faster to end the session, the last man to cross the line. But in the end, it was Charles Leclerc sitting on pole. Max Verstappen going to have to settle for second. For ourselves, we didn't get that sponsor objective, but 7th and 9th, not the worst place to be in. We have got that extra pair of softs as well for the race if we want them. They served us well last weekend. Let's go talk strategy with those tyres ahead of the Australian Grand Prix. Let's talk strategy for this Australian Grand Prix because, of course, our drivers are going to be starting in 7th and 9th, so we have to plan a little bit. I feel like there is a world in which we can capitalise on an opportunity here. Albert Park has a lot of safety cars traditionally. With that in mind, I have got some plan Bs in place in case such an event happens. As you can see for Esteban Ocon, we are looking to start on the hard tyres. We could, however, move on to a 2-stopper with softs to end the race. If a safety car comes a little sooner, there could even be an opportunity to go hard, medium on the tyres. As for Fernando Alonso, starting a couple of places up the grid, I think the medium tyre is going to be the one for him. DRS is pretty powerful here. We have the ability to chase cars through high-speed corners. I'm hoping that with the Mercedes up the road, we're going to be able to maintain touching reach with them, keeping the DRS range, have them pull us along, then maybe look for the overcut or undercut. We are, however, hoping really that the Mercedes are also going to be running the medium tyres on both of their cars. Otherwise, Alonso might be running his own race a little bit. The medium hard strategy was the recommended strategy. Let's go see what everyone else is doing. Let's see how we get on as we get ready for the 2022 Australian Grand Prix.
The drivers have now taken position on the grid, and it's looking like a cloudy day. Looking at Fernando Alonso here. They're in the front half of the pack, so there's plenty of potential for them. Further back, we've got Esteban Ocon. With a top 10 position on the grid, This race could really go either way for them. The teams are ready to go. Get ready for the Australian Grand Prix. It's lights out, and away we go.
So starting P7 and P9, we really need Alonso to get off to the best possible start. Track position is going to be important for him on those medium tyres. As for Ocon, it's going to be a longer, more patient game as we get started here. Leclerc leading the way out of this opening. Max Verstappen just behind. Sainz, Perez, then the two Mercedes. And looking at it, the Mercedes both on the yellow tyres as Alonso is going to look to have a go up the inside of George Russell. I think he has made that move stick. He is still side by side with the Mercedes, but this could be a really good opening move for us. Ocon has also managed to make up a place. He is trailing the Mercedes now directly, and this could be a good situation for both of our drivers here. This is as good as it gets, really. Ocon able to get Bottas at the start. Strategy-wise, the Mercedes both going with the medium tyres, which is what I planned for. They are the car we are going to be racing today. They are the car that we need to be better than. Of course, this is a high-speed circuit. Alonso looking to make the move up the inside of George Russell into Sector 3. In fact, no, that's Lewis Hamilton. Ocon's making the move on George Russell. We might have just overtaken both Mercedes in the same corner. And looking at this, Fernando Alonso is up to P5 as things stand. Esteban Ocon was able to get his man as well. Of course, no DRS right now. Both drivers making identical moves into the corners. And in fact, Alonso, he's looking to have a go at Perez. I feel like we've got a vendetta against Perez ever since he ruined our qualifying laps. And in fact, Alonso trying to go up the outside, can't quite make the move stick. But we are looking punchy. We are looking ambitious. And in fact, Alonso already creating this gap to Lewis Hamilton behind, as there is going to be a yellow flag and a crash. Leclerc and Max Verstappen have collided into one another there. There is a yellow flag in Sector 1. Are they out of this race? Will they be able to get back going? Alonso suddenly weren't running in P3. I cannot believe this. They went off heading in. So I think it's turn 4 there, turn 5. And suddenly, Alonso is in 3rd place. Ocon suddenly running in 5th. Verstappen's taken a warning. He must have been at fault. Going into the back of Charles Leclerc. And well, we benefited from a crash last race. We could be benefiting from another one here because suddenly there's a Ferrari and a Red Bull less to worry about further up the track. Leclerc looking like he's avoided any damage. Won't need to come into the pit. Max Verstappen is now pitting, presumably to change his nose and perhaps even change tyres. Looks like he's going to be going on hards. They will not last to the end of the race, so they are going to have to two-stop from here and get racing. Leclerc, yeah, he is still out on those mediums. Very surprised we didn't need a safety car there. Fortunate that both cars were able to get going under their own steam. During the race intro, the cloudiness was mentioned. As things stand, according to our BBC weather app, which can be incorrect in game, no rain predicted. And in fact, Sainz is vanishing up the road. Of course, he binned it on the last corner of the last race. He spun out in qualifying. Carlos Sainz has not had a good start to the season. And well, it looks like we could be chasing Perez here. Alonso, surely you're not going to make a move here. He could look to move around the outside a bit deeper on the braking. Perhaps he's going to be brave. He's going to try and make the move stick here. Perez does not look like he's got race pace. Alonso still sticking around here. Should have the inside line here. Don't think he'll get the benefit of DRS. The detection line coming up and Alonso, unfortunately, just ahead. I fear means that it's going to be, yeah, indeed it is. Perez with DRS now going to look to pull away. And in fact, in all that fighting, Alonso has compromised himself and now might even have Ocon breathing down his neck. With that in mind, I am just going to tell Ocon to not fight his teammate here. Not ideal to let Hamilton back past, but as we approach the end of lap 4 here, Alonso P4, Ocon P5 on those harder tyres. Looking at the cars around us, everyone else is on the mediums. Ocon could be in a really good situation here to capitalise. There's going to be a little bit of time management needed, but all these cars on the mediums are eventually going to have to switch it up and go into the hards. And Ocon is going to be on the faster tyre to end the race as Lewis Hamilton makes the move on Perez. Perez has not got race pace here. The Red Bull does not look good at this circuit. And Sainz, who was clear up the road, is actually being reeled back in all of a sudden. The overhead view gives you a pretty clear indicator as to how this race is going. Verstappen obviously has pitted, is in a big chase. Elsewhere, right now, Norris is acting as a bit of a stopper in a big train. And, oh my word, Esteban Ocon has locked up in Sector 1. He is off the track. It was going so well for us. I was chilling out. We were part of a train. I'll tell you what, we're very lucky that Esteban Ocon has not gone into the back of Alonso there. That could have ended really, really badly. Unfortunately, what it does mean is Ocon's race is going to be a whole lot trickier because he is on this slower tyre. We were hoping that if we could keep within touching distance of the cars in front, they would drag us along. Suddenly, I think Ocon's going to be driving his own race, looking perhaps even over his shoulder at the Alfa Romeo of Guan Yu Zhou, who's also on the hard tyres. But I feel like, given the incidents and drama we've seen so far in this race, there is still plenty more to happen between now and the checkered flag. Sainz and Hamilton fighting at the front. I'm going to tell Alonso just here to harvest the battery. Whilst they are squabbling, they are slowing down this train. Our battery situation is not ideal. So getting that charged up so we can have a proper go later, I think is probably a smart idea. Although Alonso, he doesn't want to wait for the battery to recharge. He might want to have a go here. We have 4 cars packed together. Russell has been dropped by Alonso, by the way. There are 4 different constructors battling away here. We've already seen 1 incident into this turn. On this occasion, it's going to be kept clean. It does feel like turn 4 is the turn where drama happens. It's where Ocon locked up. It's where Verstappen and Leclerc had their incident. Leclerc, by the way, on his own little recovery mission right now in P15, did not stop. He is going to have to do plenty of fighting through the pack if he wants to catch up. We're heading into lap 10 here. Alonso looking to have a go on Hamilton. Of course, these two battling to the end last race. They feel like they're going to have their own little rivalry going on. Sainz and Perez up the road battling away. We've already seen the Red Bulls and Ferraris come to blows once this weekend. Unfortunately, they are pulling away from us a little bit. This train's starting to get spread out. But a really nice move here by Alonso. In the DRS zone, of course, making that move. You can just make out, I think, Esteban Ocon down the road. A long, long way away now. But this is not a bad place to be. Ocon is going to need to manage his tyres just a little bit. We're burning through fuel because we're kind of running our own race. I'm kind of looking over to Norris thinking, Norris, if you could overtake us on the mediums, if you could help us give us a little bit of a tow, make our job easier, that would be kind of useful right now. He is still a little way behind. Don't be surprised to see Ocon dropping back a place. But besides that, we are in an okay little spot as Alonso is in DRS range of the 2 cars at the front. He is going to try and keep with them as long as he can. I have, however, got to be careful on this fuel situation.
Okay, copy.
They're squabbling. They're fighting. But if we play our cards right here, there is a podium on, and I can't really afford to get greedy chasing this lot. Ocon has lost that place that we kind of knew he was going to lose, but that is actually fine for our race. The important thing now is that Zhou doesn't get him up the outside, and unfortunately for us, Zhou might get him up the outside here. He's going to have the inside line for the next one, but it is going to come back in Ocon's favour. Can he just stick it out? Can he hold the race in line? He has to afford some space. And I think with that, Zhou... Well, I thought Zhou was going to make the move. He's been squeezed out in all the fracas. What it does mean is that Lando Norris, who we want to be following, could find himself vanishing up the road. The McLaren... Of course, only 1,000th of a second behind us during qualifying. We know it's a fast car. We know it's a car we should be able to keep up with. Alonso is like a dog with a bone right now. He does not want to let go of these Ferraris and Red Bulls in front. He wants to chase them. He wants to go for them.
Okay, good job.
I've got him conserving a fuel a little bit. And in fact, Ocon, what are we doing, mate? He's made the move on Lando Norris, despite the fact we're conserving battery and harvesting. Unfortunately for us, with Ocon on those harder tyres and without DRS to benefit, his lap times are going to be that little bit slower than these faster cars on the mediums. We're playing the long game here. Lando Norris definitely forming part of a very, very long train that Leclerc is getting up to. And to be honest, Leclerc being stuck back here plays into our favour. It's going to make him difficult to catch up with the guys at the front. And Alonso...
Now watch this. Here's Alonso.
Alonso in the DRS zone has no mercy. He moves up to P2 in this race. The Mercedes, I thought, was also going to have a move on Perez. He hasn't been able to make it work. But if they want to fight behind, we will happily try and chase Sainz with all our might. Carlos Sainz is in the pits. Carlos Sainz is in the pits. I was checking on Ocon and how he's doing in the train. As that's all gone on, Ferrari have pitted early here. Ferrari are pitting. They're going on to hards, which is the strategy we want to do with Alonso. But they are doing this so early in the race. Do they really think they can make the hards work to the end from here? Our data suggests the hards aren't going to last that long unless Ferrari are now going to try a two-stopper. Have they found a gap to get Sainz out into? Where is he going to emerge here? If he ends up behind Mick Schumacher, it would be disastrous. He is going to clear him. They have found a gap for Carlos Sainz. He was lapping very, very quickly on those mediums. I'll tell you what, I am very surprised to see them pit there. What it does mean is Alonso is currently running first here. However, we don't have the benefit of a faster car in front of us. This is not where we belong. But we're going to try and stick around here for as long as we can. Realistically, I think Perez is going to be able to make the gap, well, insurmountable and just overtake us here. He might even look to have a go on the outside here. Is he going to look to have a go? The Mexican Red Bull driver, really, at this point, Red Bull's best shot at a win in this race. He tries to have a go at Alonso. He won't get him on this occasion. 2 turns left to end lap 15. And in fact, Perez now coming into the pits, as is Hamilton. There is a yellow flag in sector 1. Has someone had a moment? It looks like one of the Hases might have even gone off the track. What happened to Kevin Magnussen? Going into set 3, he locks up, he clatters the wall, he heads into the runoff area. We have had a lot of crashes in this race. Is he going to be able to get out of that mess? There's no safety car on track. Perez and Hamilton have both pitted for the hards. Do we now pit for the hards on Alonso? I think we push a little bit. I think we push. I think there's life left in these mediums. I could be deluded. We aren't going to have any DRS, but the question is, can we perform a little bit better than Perez and Hamilton can on these hards? We want to go longer. Ocon's made the move on Norris, by the way, to move up into P4 all of a sudden. How is Ocon on his tyre wear? He's looking very, very good. He's looking on course for where we want him to be, which is great. Don't be surprised to see Norris come into the pits soon. That could help us out a little bit as well. Right now for Alonso, though, he's got Russell for company. They're all on their lonesome. Everyone else who was racing with them has pitted. This is our time to push, push, push.
Okay.
Russell is going to pit as well here. So suddenly, Alonso all on his lonesome. I'm looking over my shoulder thinking, am I doing things wrong? Should I be pitting sooner? Our plan was to pit in, what, 6 laps time. Our pit window opens in 3. Are all of these cars going for the two-stopper? I don't see a world where they're making the hards here run to the end of the race unless they know something I don't about the weather. I feel like we should just maintain what we're doing here on these mediums. Originally, I was thinking I'd cover them off, but I'm beginning to think all these other cars are going to two-stop. I don't see a world where the hards work. We're entering a very strange part in this race where I am convinced that other teams are two-stopping, and having told Alonso to push, thinking we'll match them, I'm now sat thinking, let's just try and make these tyres last a little bit longer. We've entered our pit window, so in 3 laps is the optimal lap according to our strategy to pit. But knowing the information we know, I kind of just want Alonso to keep pushing here. Right now, he's lapping a little bit quicker than Bottas. The estimated pit lane loss time here is 25 seconds, and right now, the gap from Bottas back to Alonso is 11 seconds. There's a yellow flag in sector 1.
Let's look at this. Here's George Russell.
The Mercedes battling out here. Russell spins out just like Sainz did in qualifying. That is another really good bit of fortune for Fernando Alonso in this one-stop strategy.
Okay, box.
I'm being told this is the optimal lap to pit with Alonso. But I am tempted to go that little bit further. I feel like maybe we could go an extra lap.
Let's keep pushing.
Let's have a quick look. So last lap times. We are currently lapping at a 124.7. The cars that we were racing against are lapping actually a little bit quicker, but they are going to be approaching traffic soon. If we just look at Sainz and his view, we're going to see a whole host of cars here who do not have to get out the way. They do not need to move. Do we need to lap? I feel like we might as well go a lap more just because the hards are going to be so marginal. We might be a tiny bit slower, but you can see we had that extra bit of life left in our mediums compared to what we thought we were going to have. Given the fact we were expecting the hards to kind of lose performance at the end, I think one more lap is probably in our best interest here. So Alonso has pitted a really, really good stop time for us at 2.7 seconds. We are going to come out behind Sergio Perez, but ahead of Lewis Hamilton. That is not too bad at all. Bearing in mind, we've just gone a lot longer on the mediums than they did. I think these guys might have to pit again. It does not matter if we lose this position to Hamilton.
Okay, good job, Esteban.
Which might sound a little bit weird. But I think that all these guys, I don't think they can make it to the end. I think they have committed to a two-stopper. And in clean air, we've made things work. Meanwhile, by the way, Esteban Ocon, yes, he's not pitted yet. Let's not acknowledge that. He and Guangzhou, both on old hard tyres, dicing it out for the lead alongside Pierre Gasly. Ocon is now leading the train that Alonso is at the back of. Assuming these other cars, and I'm looking at the Ferrari, I'm looking at the Red Bull, I'm looking at the Mercedes, have to pit again. We're in a great spot. Obviously, Russell, Leclerc, Verstappen, nowhere to be seen here. Of course, two of them crashed into one another. Russell had that spin. I've got to imagine that the likes of Sainz Perez thought they'd get aggressive here and they could just make it work, the two-stopper, with that outright speed. But right now, it is not proving like that as Carlos Sainz tries to make a really, really ballsy move. Does manage to clear the train.
Nice one, mate.
But it's not our race to run, Esteban. It's not our race to run. As Sainz was making moves, Alonso making the move on Lewis Hamilton as well. They've had a little bit of a fight at the back. They've fallen away from the pack a little bit. They need to catch back up.
They take advantage and muscle.
But a really nice move there by Fernando, keeping us alive in this. I might be way off the mark here. I feel like the one-stopper is going to be the fastest strategy, especially with this traffic. Yes, Sainz is now at the lead. Yes, he's got those slightly fresher hards, but I'm not entirely sure he's going to make them last. I think he's going to have to pit again. And if that does happen, it's going to be a big, big challenge to clear this pack again, even on mediums, even maybe on the softs, if that's the way they go. So for Esteban Ocon, we are looking to pit in 8 laps' time. Keep a keen eye on Gasly and Zhou and when they might pit. I have had to tell Ocon just to conserve his tyres a little. You can see, compared to the other cars on this same one-stop strategy, we are looking a little bit more ropey on our charges. Sainz and Zhou are still battling away at the front. Really interesting to note that the Alfa Romeo looks to be able to keep touch with Sainz with DRS, even on these older hards. This race is about to become a waiting game. We're going to be in this train. We're going to be moving back and forth, you'd imagine. Sainz is struggling to pull away. Really, we're waiting for the likes of Gasly and Zhou to pit onto hards. Curious to see if they will do it ahead of Ocon. Ocon is looking to pit in 5 laps' time. There's a yellow flag in Sector 2. And in fact, it was Zhou who locked up. That is disastrous.
Let's take another look. There we have Zhou.
Zhou, chasing Sainz, has locked up and gone off massively. That is a big, big moment. That is one of the big rivals for Ocon out. And that could definitely work in our favour as we are going to approach the pit window. Esteban Ocon is at risk of becoming a bit of a problem for us here. If Sainz vanishes up the road, if we can't keep within that second, it's going to be hard. Unfortunately for us, because we need to make these tyres last, I'm going to have to go conserve. This might be letting Sainz back in to challenge Alonso, but looking at Sainz's tyres, they're going to have to pit again. They're going to have to pit again. There is no one with tyres similar to Alonso around us. Alonso and Hamilton, a tail as long as time. They are battling away, and Pierre Gasly is in the pits. Pierre Gasly is in the pits as Alonso, he's going to make the move around Hamilton again. I don't know how many times these two have swapped positions, not just in this race, but across the season so far. We've already established a pit stop here costs you around 27 seconds. Alonso is running his own little thing. You know what? Let's try and close this gap a little bit. Let's try and push Fernando. Let's get to our teammate for the straight.
Copy.
Ocon going to be pitting in a lap or two's time, so we've only really got a small window of opportunity here to make the most of our teammate being in front of us. Even when Ocon pits, he could wind up coming out in around a net P4, P5 here. We could be on for some more really, really solid points with this one-stopper. I think our biggest threat right now, at least for Ocon, is Zhou. Bizarrely enough. These hards are struggling, and in fact, you know what? I'm going to bring the pit stop forward. I think our estimated exit position is P12.
Box.
Ideally, we clear the McLarens. Ideally, we clear the McLarens. You can get aggressive here, Esteban. End this lap hard. Push hard. Deploy what's left of your battery. If we could clear Gasly, that would be monstrous. Hamilton making the move on Alonso on the straight, but we are going to stick on board here. There's been a yellow flag. There's been a yellow flag in Sector 1. Someone has had a moment. I'm not sure who. Multiple cars have crashed.
Copy.
Joe is in the pits. Ocon's going to pass him. I'm not sure what the incident was.
It's a collision.
Let's take a look. What's happened here?
Watch this. There's Leclerc.
Leclerc trying to do battle through the back markers. I say back markers, of course. He's not got track position, and he's taken out the Alpha of Valtteri Bottas. Ocon coming out of the pit after all of that, and he has come out ahead of Pierre Gasly. This has worked for us. That little bit of pushing we had to do has come good. As for Alonso, he's vibing. He is doing his own thing right now. He's in P4. It's not perfect. But I just don't see a world where these cars are going to be able to make these hard tyres last for 23 more laps. It just doesn't seem possible for me. Alonso just needs to be sensible. He just needs to manage the tyres, but he doesn't want to manage the tyres. I feel like Key and Hamilton have got some beef that I'm not aware of. Every single race so far this season, they've been, well, just overtaking one another. Lando Norris is a pain in the arse. Gasly managed to get DRS on us and clear both cars. Norris, on these older tyres, is currently now acting as a stopgap between ourselves and Gasly. It's not the worst situation in the world to be behind Gasly because we have got those fresher tyres, but it would get significantly worse if he can just vanish up the road. Going to be very, very interesting to see when these cars on the harder tyres come into the pits. But as things stand on the one-stopper, if Alonso can manage his tyres, if he can manage his fuel, we could be on for the race. We could be on for the race. And in fact, Ocon looking to make the move on Pierre Gasly up the inside. He is going to make that move. Lando Norris using the DRS effectively. Then compromise Gasly's line. The engineer's swearing. I'm going to try not to swear. But fucking hell, we're doing amazingly here right now. Ocon, you naughty, naughty man. He has just managed to get past Lando Norris. I'm really tempted to deploy and get aggressive here and see if we can get clear of Norris whilst Gasly gets held up. Ocon is racing Gasly here. And Joe, they are the two drivers that we need to worry about. This is perhaps the best opportunity we're going to have to make a gap on Gasly. So with that, I'm going to ask Ocon to give it the beans. In terms of where, I think we can be a little bit more aggressive now with Alonso. We've managed it for a handful of laps.
DRS disabled. DRS disabled.
Ocon has pushed and pushed and pushed. Unfortunately, despite depleting our battery completely, we've not been able to clear Lando Norris. This McLaren, it's fast in a straight line, is what we're learning here. I thought we'd have a big performance advantage over them, but from the looks of things, that performance advantage does not exist. And with no battery charge, we could now be vulnerable to the attack from not just Norris, but also Gasly. Back markers are starting to play havoc as well. The Aston Martin not getting out of the way of Sergio Perez, who's blocked us so many times this year. Maybe that's a little taster of karma. Alonso, he might be harvesting, but he's still going to be able to make a move here, and he should get DRS off the Aston Martin as well. Of course, you do get DRS off the back markers, these cars that are a lap down. The flap open for Alonso. So despite the fact we're harvesting, he's in a good little spot. Alonso running in P3. Ocon, I mean, he's still got Norris, who's actually going to try and make a move up the inside. Lando Norris causing us a whole world of pain. I'm going to put Ocon onto harvest. I think for now, we've got to just try and make something work, as there is a yellow flag on the track. And Bottas has locked up in turn 14. Right at the end of the lap, we've seen cars run right here. We've seen cars spin out there. And on this occasion, it's the Alfa Romeo struggling to keep the car under control. So Alonso ahead of Hamilton here. We have got recharge on, which isn't exactly ideal. But I need battery potentially for later. If we can just keep up with Hamilton, who again, they got to pit, right? They got to pit at some point. I hope. So the state of play for us right now is kind of simple. Alonso needs to keep this gap under a second to Hamilton if possible. Right now, that gap is at 0.8 seconds. I've had to take him off harvest. But I think track position could be very important for us here, especially in Alonso's case. He could be on for the race win if these other cars have to pit. The most important thing right now is just managing our own tyres because, well, as we knew going into this, it is going to be a little touch and go. And in fact, we questioned, when are they going to come into the pits? Are they going to pit? The question is, they're going to pit now. Sainz is coming in for the mediums. Hamilton also coming in for the mediums to run them to the end of this race. You have to imagine Perez is going to come in next lap. Alonso now running in P2. What kind of gap is he going to have to the cars in front? Where is Ocon going to come out in relation to these cars that are on the worn hards? Sainz coming out. He's 11 seconds behind Alonso. Are these new mediums going to be worth 11.5 seconds to Alonso? We are going for the long one-stopper. We don't have the outright speed. I want to catch Perez for DRS, but we're a long way behind, and realistically, Perez is going to pit. You've got to assume that Leclerc and Russell are going to pit. With that in mind, Ocon looking likely for that P5 we mentioned, but he could be battling to the very, very end against Pierre Gasly. We're going to stick him in neutral mode here, save the battery a little bit. Expect to see these two swapping positions back and forth. Norris has fallen way, way behind, and Perez now into the pits. Presumably, he is going to come onto the medium tyres. As he's coming in, Alonso is going to vanish down the straight. Sainz managed to take 0.6 seconds out of Alonso there. Perez is going to come out on the mediums. I think the ideal scenario for us here is that Sainz and Perez have a bit of squabbling to do. Where is Perez going to come out? They're both coming down the straight. Sainz is going to clear Perez, and to be honest, it's not even really close. Two Williams doing battle for track position. But a lap down, they are going to need to get out the way of Sergio Perez. Looking at the stops here, you can see a lot of the one-stop in middle of the pack teams outperforming the likes of Mercedes, who definitely are faster. There's been a lock-up on track, however. This could change things very, very quickly. Sector 1 yellow flag. Magnussen is in the pit. A crash involving Magnussen, I think. He's already hit the wall once. I'll tell you what, Alfa Romeo today, not having a good day, not having fun at the office, and oh my word, Magnussen into the back. A big, big crash. No safety car. Is very, very surprising. I feel like that's one thing that F1 Manager needs more of. More safety cars for incidents like that. If there had been a safety car, the temptation to pit Alonso for fresh softs would have been very, very real. As things stand, Sainz 11 seconds behind. Looking at the lap difference here, Alonso in clean air is doing well. I think Sainz has been struggling with back markers. Looking ahead and up the track, there is Mick Schumacher and also Bottas ahead. Vettel and K-Mag still for Sainz to clear. So Ocon currently running in 6th, has made a 2-second gap on Gasly. I think that has been as a result of clearing back markers. I'm going to tell Ocon just to try and push here. We've got some surplus battery. Let's try and extend this gap out. Leclerc has still got to pit. When he pits, Ocon is going to move up to P5. Gasly is on the same strategy as us. As for Danny Rick, he is on hards that are going to see him to the end. You can see McLaren running that one-stopper, and it's worked wonders for them. Still a 9-second gap for Alonso to Sainz. It's going to be very, very close come the end of this race. Alonso managing his tyres to perfection. Might even have a little bit of life in them to defend if that's necessary. Alonso P1, Ocon P6. 12 laps left of this race. The pressure is mounting. Verstappen in the pits. We knew he was going to have to stop again. I'm still waiting for Leclerc to come into the pits. He's on 36% worn hards. Alonso still running his own little race and still maintaining a very good gap with 10 laps left. As for Ocon, he's managed to drop Gasly. I'm waiting for Leclerc to pit, and Leclerc still hasn't pitted. His tyres are going to be falling off a cliff face. You have to imagine he must be planning to go onto the softs, maybe trying to maintain that fastest lap. Alonso is about to pass the start-finish line. Lap 52. Carlos Sainz 4.6 seconds behind. Alonso might be in a bit of trouble here. I'm going to ask him to save his tyres a little bit more. I kind of want Sainz to pass us and then us to try and do what we did previously in the race and follow the Ferrari. Follow the Ferrari with that extra bit of life, maybe be able to fight them towards the end. Leclerc, 27% wear, is still lapping at a 121. He is still going very, very quick. You know what? Maybe we don't need to save these tyres. Maybe the hards are a race tyre that can last. Carlos Sainz hunting down our driver with 5 laps left. We have gone bold. We have gone risky. The tyres are struggling, but Leclerc is out there on the 25% wear. The Ferraris are making it work. I want to believe that we can make it work. I'm going to go deploy here. I want to try and keep a second ahead. It's going to be really, really difficult. Sainz has pushed hard on these mediums. As has Gasly, you can see, trying to catch up. Ocon, appreciate you want an update on him. He's having a lovely leisurely Sunday drive. I said that last race, and then we had all the bedlam that happened. As soon as Sainz gets within a second, we are in trouble. 5 laps left. Can we do it? Lap 55, 4 laps left. Gap down to 1.6 seconds. Last lap, Carlos Sainz took half a second out of us. He is going to be within DRS distance, you'd imagine, for the next start-finish line. I think this is the lap. We are going to get caught by Sainz for the race lead. We've tried to make this one-stop work, but with 3 laps left, we knew it was going to be difficult. I'm going to get Alonso harvesting. I can't push him on the tyres. The fuel is marginal as well. Sainz is going to look to have a go. I will just say, little update, Leclerc still running on hards that are 21% wear. He is going so long on these. It's an unbelievably massive gamble. Sainz looks to have the pace, but maybe with the help of DRS, we are going to be able to keep within touching distance. If we can charge up the battery now, we might get one last little push at the end. But it's going to be very tough. On those worn hards, though, with the help of DRS, it was never really in doubt. Sainz makes the move, clears us, and moves up to P1. Perez is still 8.8 seconds behind. As much as I desperately want to catch the Ferrari,
Happy to use DRS.
It would still be an incredible achievement with 2 laps left to come away P2 here, having gone as long as we have. I'm watching Carlos Sainz up the road, and that red Ferrari is just getting smaller and smaller in the distance. We are heading in to the last lap. Carlos Sainz led the last Grand Prix at this moment, and of course he went off to bin it. It looks like, barring a repeat of history, he is going to coast to a lead. We cannot keep up with him, but P2 is a monumental run. We have made a one-stop work. The gap is getting closer to Leclerc, whose wear is at 16%, but barring a blowout, barring, well, an absolute disaster for Ferrari at the end, we're going to be settling for P2 and P6. We have given this a monumental go. The tyres are off a cliff for us. Perez is catching behind. Alonso is losing ground to Sainz, who approaches the final corner. He spun out in qualifying. He crashed into the wall from the lead of the Grand Prix at Jeddah. But here at the Australian Grand Prix, he is going to come for a P1. Alonso gets P2. Perez is going to cap off the podium. Hamilton a little way behind, Leclerc to follow, and Esteban Ocon. As much as I sound disappointed, we should be very proud of this. We've made a one-stopper work on both of our cars. The one-stopper was definitely the optimal strategy in this race. The vast majority of the teams in the points ran this strategy, and it worked to perfection. P2, it's not P1, and I might sound a little bit disappointed in my voice because I felt like the win was maybe on for a little bit. The hope, I don't know, was afforded a little bit. It looks like Alonso has run out of fuel on track. Hopefully he's not going to have any issues getting a fuel supply given to the stewards. And we are going to hold that spot. He really did push it to the end. Fernando Alonso back on the podium. He was one spot away from doing it last race. Carlos Sainz is going to sit at the top of the podium. But I'll tell you what, El Plan is in full fruition. We were brave going for the one-stopper. The cars around us pitted. We could have followed suit. We probably could have secured a fairly safe top 5 finish with Alonso, but we went long. We stuck to our plan, and that has worked wonders for us. Not sure we're going to see too many more races like this one for us, but let's enjoy this one whilst we can. That was an insane race.
Everyone at Alpine will be very satisfied with their performance today.
Absolutely. Whatever they're doing over at the team garage, I should think they're going to keep on doing it.
So looking at the final standings for this race, Carlos Sainz finishing P1. Fernando Alonso going long, managed to secure P5. I am very surprised that none of the top teams went for the one-stop strategy. I feel like them getting caught up in the traffic of the likes of Danny Rick, Norris, heck, even ourselves with Ocon on the one-stop really caused them issues. If it hadn't been for these one-stoppers, I have a sneaking suspicion they would have been a bit quicker in their second stint. But nevertheless, we benefited from it. We were brave with it. Of course, the crash between Verstappen and Leclerc at the start of the race, it definitely helped us out a little bit. And of course, the likes of Bottas, the likes of Magnussen having crashes, having incidents, really didn't do them a whole lot of favours. Bottas, who started between our drivers, dropping 7 places and having 3 pit stops there. A day to forget, you have to say, for the Alfa Romeo, who are one of our big rivals this year for that 4th in the Constructors. So with that P2 for Fernando Alonso, he moves up to 4th in the drivers' standings after 3 races. Of course, some incidents have certainly helped us get there, some crashes for some of the cars around us, but nevertheless, absolutely sensational. With that performance, we draw level with Mercedes, who did not have a good race today. And well, who says that 3rd can't be the aim this year? Who says we have to settle for 4th? We look really, really good right now. The wily old fox that is Fernando Alonso working an absolute treat here with his tyres and getting us a massive, massive P2. Next time out, we are going to be jetting off to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix over in Italy, a track which I think kind of suits our car. Of course, we have great high-speed cornering. The low-speed cornering is a big, big weakness of ours, though, so that could be a problem. And, well, we're going to be targeting, I feel like, another podium. Whether or not that's realistic, I'll let you guys be the judge. But given how we've done so far, I feel like a race win this season maybe isn't out of the question. Or maybe I'm getting carried away slightly. As always, if you did enjoy today's episode, do drop a like on it. Help feed the YouTube algorithm. Share this series with a friend if you're really enjoying it. Besides that, I'll see you guys for episode 4 very, very soon. Take it easy. I'll hopefully see you guys over on Twitch, where, of course, we are streaming F1 Manager on the regular. And until, well, whenever you hear my voice next time, it is me, Jack. And I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.